Tell me if this sounds familiar. It's at 3 p.m. on Tuesday. You have been working since 9. You haven't done anything strenuous, and yet you feel exhausted by this time. I mean, you could literally crash on your desk right now. Meanwhile, your mornings were absolutely amazing. You were sharp, answering emails, getting things done like a pro. But what happened between then and now? Because something failed miserably and nobody seems to know what. Maybe you had meetings, people blamed the lunch, or even bosses. But what if it's actually your building? So here's our case study. Arjun is a project manager at a mid-sized consulting firm. Open plan office, decent salary, nice enough colleagues. But for the past few months, he has noticed something strange. Every afternoon, reliably somewhere around 2:30, 4 p.m., his focus goes completely. He rereads every paragraph, I mean, 3 times at least. His responses get slower. He starts making small errors he'd never make, and he's not unwell, he slept fine, he just feels foggy. Here's what makes it interesting. His colleagues feel it too. It's becoming a running office joke, the 3 p.m. slump. And they all blame different things. Post lunch, blood sugar crash, too much coffee in the morning, now it's wearing off, the circadian rhythm, body's natural afternoon dip, or screen fatigue from too many video calls. And here's the thing, some of these are actually real, but none of them tell the whole story. Because Arjun noticed something else. On Fridays, when almost half the team works from home, including him, doesn't get the slump. He works from his kitchen table absolutely fine and active. So what's different? The work is the same, the hours are the same, the lunch is the same. The only thing that's different is the room. The air in Arjun's office has too much carbon dioxide, CO2, and it's making him cognitively impaired. Not poisoned, not dramatically, but measurably, scientifically impaired. Studies have shown that a CO2 concentration above 1000 ppm, which is common in poorly ventilated areas, offices, cognitive performance drops significantly. Decision making, focus, response time all takes a hit. And here's what makes it even more uncomfortable. Most people have no idea that this is happening to them. The air doesn't smell bad, you don't feel sick, you just feel slow, and you assume it's you. Office starts with decent air, roughly the same as your outdoors, but as people arrive, start breathing, ventilation struggles to keep up, CO2 climbs steadily enough through the day. By mid-afternoon, the full office with standard HVAC, you can easily hit double or triple the threshold for cognitive impact. At home, Arjun is probably in a bigger space with better airflow. Maybe he has a window open, or there are fewer people, CO2 stays low, his brain works absolutely fine. That's not a coincidence, that's chemistry. Let's walk through this the proper way, because science here is more layered than it first appears, and understanding it means you can actually do something about it. Step 1. Observe and describe what's actually happening. The first move is always to observe carefully without jumping to conclusions. Arjun's key observation was the home versus office contrast. Same person, same tasks, every different outcome. That's a controlled comparison, almost like a natural experiment, and it points very clearly at the environment as the variable. As a good observer would note, is it worse in winter when the windows are sealed and the building is fully occupied? Is it better right after the office opens or after a weekend? These aren't idle questions, it's data. Step 2. Form a hypothesis. Arjun's hypothesis, based on everything he's noticed, the air quality in his office is degrading through the day in a way that affects how its brain functions. Specifically, and this is where knowing a little science helps, CO2 accumulation from the combined breathing of around 40 plus people in a sealed, air-conditioned floor is most likely the culprit. He's not guessing wildly. He's ruling out variables that are same on both days and focusing on what's different. That's solid scientific thinking. Step 3. Test it with the device. Here's where it gets practical. You can buy a CO2 monitor and it's cheap. I mean, it's a small desktop device and they're incredibly simple to use. Arjun brings one. He places it on his desk. He checks it when he arrives in the morning at 9 am. It reads around 500 ppm. ppm or parts per million is a unit. By 11 am, it is at 800 ppm. By 2:30, it is at 1400. By 4 pm on a busy day, it's creeping around 1800 ppm. His hypothesis is confirmed. The air quality is genuinely declining through the day, right in line with when he and his colleagues feel the same. He now has evidence. Not feeling, not a complaint. Data. Step 4. Understand the mechanism. Here's the science. Keep it simple. You exhale carbon dioxide every breath about 200 ml per minute when sitting at rest. One person isn't the problem, but put 40 people in a closed room, 400 meters office for 8 hours, when ventilation designed is for minimum building code standard and CO2 accumulates faster than it's removed. Now, why does CO2 affect your brain? Because your blood oxygen carrying system uses CO2 as a signaling molecule. When CO2 rises in your blood, it triggers changes in the blood flow and chemistry that at higher concentrations impair the very processes you need for focused work, working memory, processing speed, the ability to hold multiple ideas at once. It's not dramatic. You won't pass out, but think of it like this. You are trying to run a complex calculation on a laptop that's overheating. It will work, but it will get glitchy, it will get slower, and will start making errors. There's also a second layer that's worth mentioning. VOCs, that is volatile organic compounds. These are gases released by office furniture, carpets, cleaning products, even from your skin. In poorly ventilated spaces, they compound the effect of CO2. They are part of what researchers call as the sick building syndrome, a real studied phenomenon that organizations have been slow to actually take it seriously. Final step, apply the fix. What does Arjun actually do with this information? First, he shares it with his boss. Not a complaint, not a grumble, a CO2 readout with timestamps. That's a very different conversation to have when you have proof. Second, together they identify that 2 of their HVAC intake vents on that particular floor are partially blocked by the ceilings, the storage basically. Third, Arjun starts scheduling his most demanding work, analytical skills, writing, complex decisions in the morning, when the air quality is the best. And the rest, where passive thinking is involved, routine emails, and even the admin work, he puts it in the afternoon. He's working with his environment now, not against it. And fourth, he keeps the CO2 monitor on his desk. He actively monitors it. If it hits around 1000 ppm, he opens a window, if possible, or takes a 10-minute walk outdoors. Simple, free, and measurably effective. I want to spend a few minutes on what I think is really interesting part of the story. Because Arjun problem is everywhere. A 2015 Harvard story tells us, and this is one of the most cited pieces of research on this topic, put participants in a controlled office environments at different CO2 levels and tested their cognitive function. At 1000 ppm, it dropped from 15%. At 2500 ppm, by over 50% drop was seen. 50% in a space that looked and smelled completely normal. Now think about what happens in the most organizations where productivity dips. They run workshops, they redesign processes, they implement new project implementation tools, or even sometimes they let those candidates out. The intervention that would make the most difference: install a CO2 monitor and a good ventilation check that would cost less than your team's lunch. There's a broader principle here that I find genuinely important. Human beings are physical systems. We evolved outdoors in moving air, natural light, and cycling through the day. We now spend around 90% of our time indoors in buildings designed for minimal comfort and energy efficiency primarily, not cognitive performance. Science of indoor air quality has been growing for decades. We know a lot, but we are slow at processing. And this connects to something even bigger. How many things do we blame on personal failings, laziness, lack of focus, poor time management that are actually environmental problems that are clear, fixable, and with the scientific causes? The 3 p.m. slump isn't a character flaw, it might be your building. More thing, and this one surprised me. Plants help. Real leafy office plants placed near workstations have been shown to reduce work levels and contribute marginally to oxygen in the local environment. They are not a substitute for proper ventilation, but they are not nothing. So, quick recap. Problem: Arjun and his whole office crashed every afternoon for no obvious reason. Answer: CO2 accumulation from poor ventilation was impairing cognitive function. Method: observe the pattern, form a hypothesis, test it with a CO2 monitor, understand the mechanism, fix the environment. Discussion: this is everywhere. It's measurable and it's almost entirely ignored. If you're working in an office or manage one, I generally recommend getting a CO2 monitor. It's cheap, the information they give is almost accurate, and the difference it can make once you act on it is significant. Got a scientific problem at your work or even at home? Don't worry, drop it in the comments. This is what the series is for. See you in the next one.